Alright, we are recording for Chapter 9, the final numbered chapter of Wrath of Khan that's in this. There's still the epilogue to it. So, ship is safe. Kirk gets to engineering and is trying to get into Spock because, well, he has to try to get in to save Spock. But Scotty and McCoy are stopping him. One thing, McCoy grabbed his shoulders. He's dead, Jim. He's already dead. In the movie, it's Scotty that says he's dead already. I prefer that. I honestly do. That just they're both holding him back, but that it be Scotty specifically who says it. I don't know why. I guess it's because Scotty's not part of the trio, so like him saying it is a Jim, you have to accept this kind of thing. And it's not Scotty's recognizing, whereas McCoy would also need to accept that the trio is becoming a duo. That they are losing one. Yeah. I mean, I hope that makes sense. What I'm trying to get across, so that Scotty, he's observing, he's stating what he is observing as fact. McCoy, for him to say, would have to be an admission to himself as well, which it does kind of suggest he does not want to make. The description of Spock, I like it in the movie a bit better. In the movie, because he's off in the corner away from the glass. And when Kirk gets there, he gets himself up, but he also, importantly, grabs the tunic and pulls it straight. And that is such a perfect motion. Such a perfect movement there that Spock, even though he is dying, he still has to, when getting up to approach his friend, his brother, he has to pull the tunic straight. That's like, nope, I need to show this respect to this man by doing that, and then works his way over. But instead here, it's on his hands and knees trying to stand up, Mr. Spock hunched beside the door, and that he struggles with a hand bloody and shaking to reach the intercom. Get the whole the good of the many rather than the need of the many outweighs the good of the few, Kirk whispered, but found he no longer believed it. Even if he did not care, not this time, or the one. Spock continues. Spock dragged himself to his feet and pressed his bleeding hand against the glass. Jim mashed it with his own, as if somehow he could touch Spock's mind through the glass, take some of his pain upon himself, give his friend some of his own strength, but he could not even touch him. It's just considering that there's a scene in Search for Spock when Sarek comes to Kirk's apartment, believing that he's the one that would have the. I don't. Is it Contra? Is that's but basically Spock's soul, in him. But it's like, nope. There was glass between us. It couldn't have happened. It's like, I do just find it a little funny because that's not being set up in the book because they didn't have that in mind yet. It's actually nothing that further shows that, but it is just kind of funny to me. Yeah, and also, Spock basically defends his action. That's like, well, I could do this. No one else could. The radiation would have instantly killed a human being. I'm not human, so I could do it. Damn your logic, Spock, Jim thought. Tears spilled down his face. He could barely see. I never faced Kobayashi Maru, Spock said. His voice was failing. He had to stop and draw a long, shuddering breath before he could continue. I wondered what my response would be. Not, I fear, an original solution. Technically true, but I do, again, kind of prefer the movie line better of, how did you like my solution? So you're not passing judgment on himself like that, like what is in here. But is not, I fear, an original solution? Yeah, probably not. probably there are plenty of commanders who, well, people in the simulation testing to be commanders who did just find a way to sacrifice themselves to potentially save the ship. Then we get this, because Saavik breaks in over the intercom. Captain, the Genesis world is forming. Mr. Spock, it's so beautiful. And then, infuriated, Kirk slammed the channel closed, cutting off Saavik's voice. But Spock nodded, his eyes closed, and perhaps just a little, he smiled. This does get mentioned later, by the way. It basically, not really much of a spoiler. Saavik very intentionally did that because she knew Spock would want to know, because Spock would have wanted to see the world, if possible. Just because he found the work so fascinating, and the people had died trying to protect it. The people who made it died for it. So it's like Spock would want to see it to recognize that. Saavik is wanting to tell him about it. And I think I have some of it highlighted, so I'll read it when I get to it. But wants to basically confirm for Spock, it is there, and yes, it is beautiful, that your sacrifice, even for that, is also still, it is for meaning. There is value there. Jim, he said, I have been and will be your friend. I'm grateful for that. Live long and prosper. Not the line in the movie's better. Just the I have been and always will be your friend. And then I think that's it. Maybe there's a live long and prosper, but it's just, it's shorter. It's a bit, it's just, in the movie, it's more of just a straight punch. And that's it. You don't need more. This, it's a little bit more drawn out. And yeah. Which, to be fair, if being able to hear it, like have Leonard Nimoy there and hear him perform it, I can see plenty of people just being that's it. Don't need more. But if you're writing it, I could see not having the power of a speaking human voice, especially the correct human voice, Leonard Nimoy's voice, that you might not realize, nope, it can be shorter. So, so he dies, and Jim is just gone. He is crying, his mind crying denial and disbelief. So now we move on to a little later. Well, much later that night. The bodies are, most of them are in stasis boxes. So yeah. And Saavik has come into the room. Far too many of the stasis boxes radiated the faint blue glow that showed they were in operation. Protected by the stasis fields, the body of Peter Preston and the bodies of the other people who had died on this mission waited to be returned to their families. But Captain Spock's will stated that he was not to be taken to Vulcan. His wishes would be respected. That again would be evidence that it just means they didn't think about, they didn't have the concept of Vulcan resurrection yet. Because it's like, well, they'd have to bring the body back for that, but they didn't have the idea yet. So this is what's happening there. Whereas in the movie, the explanation could just be we're a naval ship. Somebody died. This is what we do with the dead. We don't bring them back home. We bury them at sea, bury them at space. That's what we do. Whereas this is nope, Spock specifically asked for it. It's like, anyway. Saavik sat cross-legged in the corner, rested her hands on her knees, and closed her eyes. She could not have explained to anyone why she was here, for her reason was irrational. And on Helgard, if someone died at night and was not watched, their body would be gone by morning, stripped by scavengers and torn to bits by animals. Seldom was anyone buried. Saavik had never cared enough about anyone in Helgard to remain with them through the night. Captain Spock and Peter Preston did not need a guard, not here on the Enterprise, but this gesture was the only one she could make to them, the only two people she had ever cared about in the universe. She stayed. We then get a little bit of the explanation that I already kind of gave. Saavik had wanted Spock to know the destruction had ended and the creation had begun, concerning the Genesis planet. She knew Admiral Kirk misunderstood what she had done and why, but Saavik's essential inner core had dictated her actions then as it did now. Admiral Kirk's opinion was of no significance. Tears slid down Savik's face. Yet she remained free of the madness. Rage was absent from her sorrow. She hoped someday that she might understand why. Someday. Okay, so it's... I like many of these chapters, really liking this one, how this is written here. And even though she's alone, there's still that... We're still getting interplay with basically her and Spock. Though I will also say there's still the epilogue that maybe it'll be in there. If Kirk doesn't give some sort of commendation or something to Peter, I'm still agreeing with her. He needs to have his liver ripped out. We'll see. We'll see. Still a little bit more to go. That's going to be tomorrow. We also get some more. She'd been a moment away from trying to stop him from leaving to go down to engineering. Only the control he had taught her had kept her at her post, because it was her duty. She had regretted her action, her failure to act, ever since. Okay. It does also mention that, like she was faster than him, and you could probably have stopped him and gotten to engineering before him. But would she have been able to do that? Would she have been able to sacrifice herself like that? She doesn't know. Savick had no belief in soul or afterlife. She had read various philosophies, she accepted none. A person died, scavengers destroyed the body, that was all. Yet the hours passed and her concentration deepened. Her feeling that somehow, somewhere, Spock's consciousness retained some of its integrity grew stronger. Spock, she said aloud, can you see what has happened? Are you there? Are you anywhere? A world has formed. The Genesis wave is still resonating within the nebula, forming a new sun to give the world light and sustain its life. Soon the wave will die away and the universe will have another star system. But it will be one among millions, one among billions. And you taught me to value uniqueness. Your uniqueness is gone. Suddenly she opened her eyes. She thought for a moment she had heard something, some reply. Savick shook her head. The strange hours before morning could give one any mad thought. A little sad that she does, sweep it away, but still, I mean, it's really nicely written there, especially with the whole. Even she knows this is irrational, but sorry, that was dust. But she still has to do something to honor these two. Spock specifically being named, which also makes more sense. We know Spock better, so let's see. One thing that also occurred to me while I was reading that, how the Genesis wave has been described. The whole thing in Search for Spock with the microbes on the torpedo growing into these monsters is like, that's not how the Genesis technology should work. It's actually going to be interesting to see how Search for Spock rectifies some of that. Because as I said, I mean, in the novelization, because like some of that doesn't make sense. Like even Spock's body being reanimated, I can kind of believe that, like at the tail end of it, just the energy from the Genesis effect is still there and revitalizes his cells. It turning him into a youth, that doesn't make any sense. That's never made any sense. But it's still just that being, but it's like that, yeah, that's reasonable. Mutating the bacteria into that stuff, not so much. Okay. We cut to Sulu in sickbay, who, he wakes up, is talking with Chapel, asks, what about Khan? Dead. She stood up. Go back to sleep, Hikaru. He reached out, his hands were too stiff to stop her, but she paused. Because he's like, he knows something is off. And she does say that Mr. Spock is dead. And how that also hits Sulu. Mainly I just highlighted this because go back to sleep, Hikaru. A piece of trivia for Star Trek 6 is that's the first time he's given his first name. Is in Captain's Log. Excelsior Hikaru Suru commanding. Or however it exactly opens, but it's like, no, it's in here. He got his first name here. It's not in that movie. That would be the first time it was spoken, but this would be the first time. This would be when he's actually given it, because this is the Wrath of Khan novelization, which means it would have released around the same time as the movie, which 82, I want to say, because Motion Picture was 79, and I think it was made 3 years later, so 82. Star Trek 6 is 91 or 92, so it's like a decade later is when it's actually spoken, but it's like, that trivia is wrong. Which is funny, because that happens so much with so many of these novelizations. Like, back in A New Hope, with the whole Harrison Ford getting, on the... in the prison level, he's getting on the radio, and it's like, "Hi, how are you?" It was a boring conversation. That's all in the novelization, but a lot of people describe that as being improv by him. It's like, no, it's clearly not, because it's in the novelization. The novelization has certain differences where you wouldn't take that line and insert it into the novelization, but not correct the description of R2 having clawed legs instead of wheeled legs. I mean, it's like, that's in some ways more significant to change, because, I mean, yeah, sure, you like the line better, but still, you had something written there, most likely. Whereas with R2-D2 and his physical design, it's like, that being wrong, a lot of people are going to notice and be like, that's not R2! So, yeah, it's... By the way, another example of that where the novelization helps shows when things are not, in fact, ad-libs. In Terminator 2, towards the end, the Arnold Terminator makes a comment about, "I need a vacation." That's in the novelization, which shows it wasn't just a one-liner, as Schwarzenegger was well known to have in a lot of his movies. Because fairly often he delivered them very well. They were quite effective. Okay, so now we cut to Kirk, who's in his quarters and just sitting there in the dark. There's a knock on the door. "What do you want?" he cried. "Leave me alone." The door opened and Carol stood silhouetted in the light from the corridor. Outside, she came in and closed the door. No, Jim, she said. "I won't leave you alone, not this time." She knelt before him and took his hands in hers. He then puts his forehead into her hands, and it's just... basically her presence does relax him, does comfort him, and he falls asleep soon, and she just pushes him into the couch there, puts a blanket on, and then leaves. But it's the main reason I highlighted this is because he did say, "Leave me alone," and she straight up says no. And I do appreciate such acts of defiance, such loving defiance, essentially, where it's like she does love him, not in a way that they're going to get married, or anything like that, or even potentially try to continue a relationship, but there is still care between them. She does care about him, and he cares about her, she does care about him, and it's like, she knows he's in pain, and she needs to do something. It's like, "I want to be alone." You say that that's not what you want. I know that. Because I care, I'm going to do something. And it's like, I do appreciate that, because I do feel that that's something that some people don't necessarily get. It's not the most common thing in a lot of media. It is, somebody says, "I want to be alone." Very often it's then left alone. Or just, it does take care of the person to recognize also when it is appropriate to be defiant in that way. But it does also remind me, because the famous "I Want to Be Alone" by... yeah, that was Garbo. That was Greta Garbo. If you actually look up the full clip, she does say that. It's like the whole "I want to be alone." And the dude who's there is like, "No, I'm not going." But she went from very kind of sad to she kind of perks up a little bit. That's not what's happening here. But it's just kind of funny. Where it's like, if you continue the scene, it's a little less dramatic. I'm just checking what all... okay. Okay. So then we get to the actual funeral for Spock, which is a lot here that I do generally like, but the only thing I highlighted, just I'll speak in generalities about it, but beside Admiral Kirk, Dr. McCoy tried to keep from breaking down, but failed. He stared straight ahead with tears spilling down his cheeks. So it clearly is very difficult for him. And by the way, this is right before Kirk says, "Of my friend, I can only say that of all the souls I've encountered, his was the most human." So it's like the pause there is different in the book than the movie. The movie, I think, is, his was the most human. I feel it's better than his was the most human, because it's just odd because it puts the emphasis on that's where he's starting it up again. So the movie is a little bit better there. But again, that's like I said earlier with the voice, that being able to hear the voice, and being there, it's like, okay, you can get that a little easier than when you're just writing it out. Also, Saavik actually has a line here. We embrace, because she's the one that goes over and actually like puts in the path for the torpedo to take. And it is completely like it was Kirk who had said, fire it at the Genesis planet, with the intention of it burning up, and so it'll be just ashes over. Not what ends up happening, thanks to Search for Spock. But she's the one that actually enters that in and hits the button. But still, we embrace the memory of our brother, our teacher. Her words were inadequate and she knew it. With love, we commit his body to the depths of space. So, yeah, she does get to say something there as well, to try to say goodbye. Then we have, like, it's everyone can leave. And David, well, Kirk leaves, and David did turn, like, wanting to talk to him. The young man took a step toward him. Jim Kirk turned on his heel and left. Which, I mean, Kirk is in pain, and it's also the last time that they talked that we know of. David was offended by Kirk praising him. So, but then we get Saavik and David talking, and I'll go through this first. When I took the Kobayashi Maru test, she paused to see if David remembered the conversation back on Regulus 1. He nodded. Admiral Kirk told me that the way one faces death is at least as important as how we face life. Yeah, so it is just because he has also lost a great deal, not necessarily how Kirk has lost, but do you believe now that he is your father? Saavik asked. He started, no, maybe, I don't know. Saavik smiled. She tells actually a decent joke. Well, I'm calling it a joke. I think it should count. Anyway, we perhaps have something in common, David. Do you remember what you said to him? When you tried to kill him. You called him, if my memory serves me properly, a dumb bastard. I guess I did. So, he is not, to my knowledge, a bastard, but I am. And if Admiral Kirk is your father, then I believe the terminology in its traditional sense fits you as well. He stared at her for a moment, then laughed. I'm beginning to think the dumb part fits me even better. He reached out quickly and touched her hand. I really want to talk to you some more, he said suddenly, but there's something I have to do first. I must return to the bridge, Saavik said. It is my watch. Later on, can I buy you a cup of coffee? That would be difficult. One cannot buy anything on board the Enterprise. Sorry, that was kind of a joke. Oh, Saavik said, not understanding. I just meant, can we get together in a while, when you're free? I would like that, Saavik said, rather surprised at her own reply. So this does make me wonder if the intention was to set up some sort of special relationship between those two, but Search for Spock would have greatly disrupted that because it can't be about like a next generation with them. It had to be about finding Spock. Now, still, there might be some stuff in there that will be different from in the novelization versus in the movie, because it seems more professional, their relationship. Maybe in the novelization that will be different. Don't know. We'll see. I mean, it is definitely true. Again, referencing another novelization, The Empire Strikes Back, the relationship between Han and Leia is radically different in the book than in the movie. In the book, it is basically clear from the beginning they're in a relationship. Because in the movie, it goes through where she is nope, 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 until the end. While in the book, it's like, yeah, 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 and then yes at the end. I mean, they had multiple makeout sessions, and it's like it's not like just him giving her a kiss and her eventually pushing him away when she realizes, wait, no, don't want this, but it's they both make out. So yeah, it is possible we'll be different in Search for Spock. We'll just see, and I am looking forward to it. So now Kirk is back in his quarters, and this time David comes. David let him pass, but before Jim got to the door, his son said, "Are you running away from me?" Jim stopped and faced David again. "Yes," he said, "I guess I am." And I highlighted that because I just like that with the whole David's just calling it out. Calling it as season. Jim's like, "Yep. That's exactly what I'm doing." Lieutenant Savick was right. You've never faced death, and this, I'm pretty sure this whole conversation is also in the movie. "Not like this," Jim admitted reluctantly. "I never faced it. I cheated it. I played a trick and felt proud of myself for it, and got rewarded for my ingenuity." He rubbed his eyes with one hand. "I know nothing," he said. It's a little different from the movie. "You told Savick that how we face death is at least as important as how we face life." Jim frowned. "How do you know that?" "She told me. It was just words. Maybe you ought to listen to them." "I'm trying, David. So am I. The people who died on Space Lab were friends of mine." "I know," Jim said. "David, I'm truly sorry." Then we do get to David also apologizing and having the whole line of I would be proud to be your son. We do get to that reconciliation there. So yeah, I mean it's okay. I am still in the epilogue, which I quickly saw that they're back on the bridge. That son of a bitch had better put Peter in for accommodation. I mean, it's better. I mean, it can just like the whole and put in Peter in like because notifying the loved ones kind of thing. You know, it would be traditional that Kirk would write something, and if it was something like even putting in that like ensign, so not cadet, but like actually ensign, so like graduated the academy, even like Lieutenant Preston's like he earned it. Okay, he earned it. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the epilogue there. But I'm also just trying to think about the juxtaposition between this with the reconciliation. Oh, I guess in a way, yeah. Not quite, because you know when Khan died, he did not reconcile with Joachim. I mean, there's a part of me, I didn't say it in the previous video, but there's a part of me that it would be beyond the scope of the book. But I kind of like the idea of Khan, when reaching out to, like, have a hand to Joachim, his dear friend, as he dies, as Khan dies. And he's thinking about how, oh yes, I'm finally going to be, I will be united with my friend and my wife. But in reality, in actuality, it's no, you're going to hell. Those two can and potentially were actually redeemed. Where it's like, yeah, they're not there with you. Because he constantly chose anger and hatred. He constantly chose revenge, which are specifically things both of them told him not to do. And he just kept going away. So it's like he did that as a final physical act of reconciliation, but emotionally he is not reconciled with them. Whereas here you do actually have reconciliation between David and Kirk. It's not perfect. It would only be a start, technically. But it still is an actual legitimate attempt there. So, and it is an attempt at emotional reconciliation, not just physical, which, hang on. Yeah, because it does actually end with Jim grabbed him and hugged him hard. After a moment, David returned the embrace. So there's also that kind of physical reconciliation, that physical touch there. So yeah, you do continue to see a juxtaposition between them. And it is also a little funny when you further go with it because of the twisted nature with Khan. Khan had all these things that Kirk potentially did want himself. Khan had a wife. In Joachim, he had a person he could not love more if he were his own son. So it's like he had a family. Kirk did not have that, not knowingly. Carol was never his wife, was the mother of his child, but was never his wife, and he didn't even know he had a child until now. And he's not really prepared for it, and the child hated him for most of this too. But in the end, and it's doubtful that he's going to go off and be David's father. It's unlikely he would ever even be called father by David, even with all this. So it's like, but it's still, Khan had those things, but because of his evil, twisting, corrupting nature, in fact, destroyed it himself. He destroyed the relationships, because even after their deaths, he continued to do things betraying them. Whereas here, Kirk did not betray them, and has in fact gained them to a degree in the end. I mean, both Marcuses do come to him, and in some way help him. So, help him heal emotionally. So, yeah, it is. They are interesting juxtapositions there. And it's just part of what else is interesting, not only how the juxtaposition does exist, but that it isn't necessarily the sharpest. By that I mean, in Attack of the Clones, which very much the juxtaposition is there, it's much more obvious, I feel, because it is like you're cutting directly from Anakin suffering to now, whether it's Boba and Jango Fett or the Lars family, it's like you're cutting like from one directly to the other, or with Padme's family as well. It's like you're cutting straight there, and with Padme's family, Anakin is there, and it's just, you can see how, yes, this is being juxtaposed against Anakin's relationship with Obi-Wan. It's very clear there. Here, not necessarily as clear, but it is there if it occurs to you that, oh yeah, that is there. So, alright, I really need to stop talking. The video has gone on long enough. I will, for me, pick up the epilogue tomorrow, which is good, in part because it means I may get one day to write this week. These take a while. The chapters are long. Hopefully, Citrus Spock has more chapters. Voyage Home has more chapters. Hopefully, between those two, I will be able to build enough and be able to have time to write and not be like, yes, just keep doing videos. See you next time.